Hi everyone, welcome to EDSP 407, which is called Organization and Administration of Special Education, also called Special Ed Law. I am Sarah Platt. I'm your instructor of record. Sorry I'm not here in person, but I'm actually on maternity leave right now. I had a baby on December 30th, and his name is Jason, and so I'm going to be taking care of him for a little bit. But I will be back in the saddle and in your classroom on February 16th. So I look forward to meeting all of you. I know some of you, but I look forward to getting to know all of you. In the meantime, my colleague, Dr. Denise Torres, will be substituting for me. And so both of our information can be found on the syllabus. So hopefully you have that. I'd like you guys to take a look at that. I'm going to talk briefly through it. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask Dr. Suarez. Feel free to email me. I am a little bit slow at times because I am taking care of my baby and I have some strange hours because he's still getting used to that whole night and day thing. So yeah. So we'll be on that. I do want to let you know too, I always tell my students, if you've had me before, I'm sorry. Some of the times I'm going to repeat myself. One of the things I do tell you is I am not Dr. Platt. My husband is actually Dr. Platt. He teaches in the geology department here at Ole Miss. And if you write Dr. Platt, sometimes I always tease my students and say, hey, if you want them to grade your papers, write Dr. Platt. But I actually am working towards getting my doctorate in special education. So as well as teaching here, I am also a student too. So I understand what it's like to be a student. And I have two wonderful kids. I have Jason, who is our newborn, but I also have a 6-year-old. So some kid experiences that I can share with you. But some background about me, so you can kind of have an idea of where I come from and what my background is. I worked as a school psychologist in the schools for about 9 years before I decided to come back and pursue my PhD in special ed. But I worked the first 3 years in a preschool through age 21 with special ed in rural area of Kansas. And then for 6 years I worked in an elementary, so preschool through 5th grade with kids in special education, but also with general ed kids in a more, I would say, suburban area of Kansas. So that's kind of background on me. I'm going to talk a little bit and go through the syllabus with you. I'm not going to read everything word for word. I'm sure you've had some time maybe to look at it, maybe not to look at it, so I'm going to talk you through briefly. One of the big things you'll notice, I'm sure a lot of your other faculty have talked about, our conceptual model. And that is on the front page. And that's very important because we're going through our accreditation, our NCATE accreditation. So if at any time you could be asked, hey, what's our conceptual framework and why is that important? And I think it's important for you to know. So I know it may be a repeat, and I know lots of our professors, I talked about it last semester, but I want to be sure that you know what our conceptual framework is. And there are many tenets, as you can kind of see the graphic on that front page, but it's very important. These are things in teacher education, things that you need to know. You need to be able to know how to be an effective problem solver, communicator, a lifelong learner. Just because you get your teaching degree doesn't mean that you stop learning. And some of our best teachers, and the ones that I've met in the field, are always learning every day. And also we need to be able to use technology proficiently, and I know that you guys all know the importance of that. Things are constantly changing. Our students are sometimes even more proficient at using technology. I can tell you from experience, my 6-year-old can do things on my iPhone and my iPad that I'm very amazed by. And also we need to understand to be advocates for diverse learners. And being in a special education classroom, that's one of the big things that, yeah, we talk about a lot. And so I think I hit all of them. Problem solvers, communicators, lifelong learners, users of technology, and diverse learning. And throughout the semester, we'll be talking about those a little bit more in detail. All right, professional dispositions, that's all on there, and these are all things that consistently should be getting in all of your education courses, so I'm not going to take a whole lot of time to go through that, but please be sure that you're familiar with that information in case you are stopped during our visit. One of the things I want to tell you, this is what your book looks like. Ooh, I'm trying to look like, doing the video, sometimes it's like what I see on the screen and what you're seeing could be very different. But it's the 3rd edition. This is what our book looks like. The Law and Special Education. It's by Yale, and that's the textbook for the class. Also on the syllabus, there's some helpful websites. One of the things you'll learn about me is I like technology, and I really think it's important to know where to look, because one of the things is once you graduate from here, you're going to have questions and you're going to want to know where to go. And so a lot of these websites on here, Wright's Law, the U.S. Office of Special Ed Programs, there's some good stuff on here. So you want to be sure you're checking those out and keeping probably a bookmark on those. All right, purpose of the course. This is super important. I know sometimes you might think, oh my gosh, law, oh wow, what's this going to be like? Talking to previous students, being a person that has been in the field, especially if you're a special educator, if you're a general educator, you need to know the law. And sometimes it might seem like, oh wow, this is like way boring. But here's the thing. You can learn it now. You can learn it the easy way or you can learn the hard way. And I suggest that you learn it this way. And you learn it to know it before you go in the field instead of having one of those oops moments. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to tell you some stories from the field. I'm sure you'll hear it also from my colleague because we like to tell you about real world things. And so you can learn from those mistakes or those good things that have happened in the field as well. Super, super important to know. Okay, so that's one of our big things that we're going to talk about is how the law has developed over time, what current law is, what you need to know in terms of IEP development, procedural safeguards, aka sometimes called parent rights. These are all things that we need to know, and so we're going to talk about that. We have lots of course objectives, as you can see on that page. I'm not going to go through every single thing on there, but I think it's important that you read through that and kind of become more familiar with it. But really what we're going to focus on is the law in terms of its application to diverse learners and what you need to know as a potential future special educator or educator in general. So let's turn to the next page, and there's our course outline. And there's always the flexibility, so things may change, things may stay the same, but this is kind of our plan of attack for where we're going to be going. And so lots of times what we're going to do is we're going to cover the chapters and then we're going to do activities. I am a firm believer in, you got to have some background information, but you have to be able to apply it and you have to be able to understand it. Because it's one thing to just know these things, memorize it for a test, and then just have no clue what it actually means. And in this course, I don't know if you've skipped ahead in the syllabus or not, but we are not doing tests. We are doing more in-class assignments, some out-of-class assignments, but more practical application. Okay, we're going to do some case studies. I want to talk about what's really happening in the field. I want you to have some idea of things to look for and how to apply it. That's super important to us here. So you'll see we're going to start out, kind of in the beginning. We're going to talk about the syllabus. I'm going to talk a little bit about field experience as well, okay, and some of our assignments. And then we'll kind of go in order with the chapters. Chapter 1, Chapter 2. We're also going to have a guest speaker on February 5th, and that is Savannah Kelly, and she's our subject level librarian. And she's wonderful and she's super helpful. So please be sure when she comes on Thursday, February 5th, that you have questions for her. She's going to teach you about how to find information on your legal case studies. You're going to sign up for a court case and you're going to do some research on that. So Savannah's going to help you kind of get an idea of where to look and what to do. All right, so be sure that you have your technology, whichever you use. I know some folks use tablets, some folks use iPads, some people use all different things. So feel free to bring whatever you use to do your research. Okay, we're gonna be having her come to our classroom. All right, so that's February 5th. Okay, I'm gonna be coming back, like I said, on February 16th. So we're going to start, when I get back, we're going to be working on some case studies. All right, so I will likely send some Blackboard announcements out, kind of give you some additional information when that time comes. But please be sure that you take a look at those cases. I suggest, if you download them on your computer, or you might want to print them out. Just depends on how you like to organize yourself. But those course cases are on Blackboard. You also want to make sure that you're checking out my Blackboard website, and all the PowerPoints are on there by chapters. Also, activities that we're going to do in class are on Blackboard. It's under PowerPoints and activities. So please be following along that on that aspect. All right. Syllabus, you've probably seen that. You've probably seen my assignments at a glance as well. We're going to talk about that. But I usually put most everything on Blackboard. I like to use it a lot. And I do Blackboard announcements as well. So please be sure you're checking your university email, because that's where that information will go. Okay, but basically, just kind of take a look at our course outline. We'll kind of go along the way. But we're going to be doing, some samples, Section 504 plans. We're going to go through some IEPs. We're going to talk about how would you actually have an IEP meeting, and what kind of things do you put on the agenda. Because some of you, if you are a special education teacher, you're going to be facilitating those IEP meetings. You're going to be leading those meetings. So you're going to want to know, hey, what do I do? How do I need to do that? And what kind of information do I need from people before we get going? So super, super important. We have a video that we're going to watch later on in the semester about surviving due process. Some of you probably have no idea what that means, and that's okay. We're going to talk about that. Due process is when school districts sometimes can get in trouble, or sometimes school districts can take parents to court as well, but it's the legal process. Okay, when we have situations where we don't agree with parents or whatever, but then that's when the court system becomes involved. So we're gonna watch some videos and do that kind of thing. You're also gonna do some presentations. I talked a little bit about you're gonna have a court case that you're gonna be assigned, and there's some information in the back. You're gonna take a look at that, and then you're gonna do a handout for me, and you're going to do either a PowerPoint or Prezi, whichever you're most comfortable with, on that court case. And we're going to do those after spring break. I have 3 days set aside for that. So we're going to do some things with that. We're going to do some discussions, and we'll talk more about that when we get to that part of the course. But like I said, I like to do case studies, and you're going to see, we're going to do 5 of those throughout the semester too. And you're also going to be reading towards the end of the course a Dear Colleague letter. You're going to be crafting a response. There's some information that you're going to read, and we'll talk more about that later, but that's related to discipline and legal aspects of it. So super, super important in schools. And behavior is one of those things we talk about a lot. So you want to know what legally you can and cannot do. So yeah, that's going to be later on in the semester. You are going to be doing field experience hours, and so you're not going to have like a final exam test. What you're going to be doing is, based on your field experience, you're going to be doing an interview with your clinical instructor, your observations, and all of that. But from that field experience, you're going to create a written document for me, and then you're going to do a presentation as your final. And that is worth a total of 100 points. So that's a lot of points. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. On your syllabus and course schedule, I have your final exam times. So please be sure that you're checking if you're Section 1 or if you're Section 2. Okay, those are going to have different times. They're both on there, but be sure you're checking. And then I've got the assignments listed on there. I talked about the court case, research and presentation, the case studies. All right, like I said, we're going to do 5 of those, 20 points each, so worth 100 points. And then the Dear Colleague letter. And then discretionary points, okay? I have 100 points set aside for this because I feel this is super important. Attendance is very important, and we'll talk more about my attendance policy later. But we're going to be doing in-class activities, and these count towards these discretionary points. So if you're not in class, you're not going to be able to get those points. But also if you don't participate, or if you do inappropriate things, that's where you're going to lose those discretionary points. So super, super important to be here in class and participate and be active. All right. Okay. As you guys know, the assessment procedure, we do straight A, B, C, D, F. Okay, we do not do plus or minus. So if you've taken other classes, I'm sure you're very familiar with that. All right, my assignment policy. All right, so this is how we've developed this over the years. One of the things with legal and law and special education is there are deadlines. There are certain things, like an IEP is due 1 year from the date that it's written. So if I was to write an IEP today, let's just say you guys are watching this on 1/22/2015, it would be due on 1/22/2016. The state doesn't care, if something happened and then, hey, I'm late. Guess what? Guess who's in trouble? Me, because I didn't get it done. All right. So there's legal procedures. Okay, 1 year from when that IP is written, it's due to be rewritten again. And if it's not, there are certain consequences that happen to school districts if you're what is called out of compliance. So it's super important that things get done on time. And that's one of the things that why I talk about my assignment policies is that things are due on the date they're assigned. All right. Now, there are some cases where, hey, you have a death in the family, you're in the hospital, you have certain things that are going on in your family, like your mom's severely ill, that kind of thing. Just contact me. We'll talk about it. All right. But don't wait till the last minute. And some things you can't help. I mean, you can't help if you're in the hospital. Okay. No worries. Okay. But things are due on the date they're assigned. So that's my policy there, okay? Unless there's significant other circumstances, all right, and I need to know about those. All right, so let's just say you are absent and you're going to miss class that day and the assignment's due. All right, so what do? You need to be sure that if it's a Blackboard assignment, that's like if it's due on Blackboard, it needs to be turned in before class time. All right. If it's something you're turning in paper, you need to email me that before class. So be sure that you read that and be familiar with that. All right. So field experience, you're wondering, okay, how many hours do I have to do? What's the deal on this? Your field experience, if you are in elementary and special ed, the dual certification, you have 5 clock hours for me. That's your field experience. Now, if you're a special ed major, it's 20. All right, so that's on your syllabus there. And you have your field experience packet. So be sure that you're looking at that as well. There's a log sheet that you'll have to turn in to me. And you will have to, I usually ask my folks to highlight my hours. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later. But there are specific questions in the field experience that you'll need to be asking your clinical instructor, and that's what you're going to be working on to do your presentation for me. So please be sure you're reading those and being familiar with that. All right. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about my attendance policy. Okay, so we talked about how important it is because this counts towards your discretionary points. Well, here's the thing. It is super important that you are here because guess what? In real life, if you are involved in a court case, and it's when we're talking about a concept such as like least restrictive environment or free and appropriate public education, FAPE. And your principal or your administrator says, well, don't you remember this is, a violation of FAPE or LRA? And you're like, oh, well, hey, I was absent that day. I wasn't there when we talked about that in class. Just because you're not in class doesn't mean those concepts are not important. They are important. So I expect you, if you miss class, that you're doing the reading, that you're following up on the assignments, and you're getting done what needs to be done. Now, excessive absences, now that these are unexcused absences, okay? So I have no idea what's going on with you. You've missed after your third unexcused absence. Then I look at dropping your course grade. So if you've earned an A from me, but you've missed 3 unexcused, then we're looking at moving your grade down to a B. So absences, attendance, okay, attendance is very important. So if you have questions about that, let me know, but I have that section in my syllabus and I expect that you will be familiar with that. So let's just say, say you've missed 4 absences, unexcused. Okay, we're looking at dropping it even more, too. Okay, so please do not get into that. Don't let that happen to you. Okay, so. Alright, so if you have any type of disability, please be sure that you give the paperwork to my colleague, and so that we can become familiar and give you whatever accommodations that you need. Okay, so that's super important. Plagiarism is not accepted, is not tolerated. I'm sure you've talked about this in some of your other courses. If you're unfamiliar with that, please be sure that you're looking at the information. In 327, we made you take the quiz on plagiarism, so please review that. I don't want to have to, really beat you over the head with that. I know that in 327, you've taken that course. We've talked about it a lot. All right, professional conduct and participation. Okay, remember we talked about discretionary points. I've got 100 built in my syllabus. Okay, our class activities, being there, attendance, and participating. So I just want to do just a couple little reminders about what my expectations are. And some of those things I want to talk a little bit more about. Okay, so I'm expecting you all to be in class. I'm expecting you to participate in our discussions. And I'm expecting you not to be using cell phones, not to be texting while we're in class. Okay, it's very distracting to me as an instructor. It's very distracting to other students, and I view it as a form of disrespect. So please don't do that. Tablets, computers, if you're using them to look at the PowerPoints or to follow along or take notes, that's okay. But I do not want to see computers, I do not want to see that kind of thing to be used for other reasons like surfing or doing online shopping or doing anything that's inappropriate like other coursework. Please do not do that. Okay, so it's only classwork for our class. Also, I expect you to be respectful to other students in our class. And to me, I do not expect to have to give you reminders to say please do not talk when another student's talking or when I'm talking. Please don't do that. Alright, so here's the thing. If you are doing these types of things, if you're texting or if you're doing inappropriate things, I have the right as the instructor to take away those discretionary points for that day. Now, if this becomes a consistent problem, what I may do is ask you to come in and meet with me and talk about your behavior. All right. Now, if it becomes a consistent problem, if I've had a meeting with you and things aren't improving, then what we would look at is what's called a disposition infraction. And I don't want to have to go there. All right. But I want to be sure that you're aware of that. All right. Because professionalism is super important. You're going to be a teacher, and your behavior is important. You're a role model to future students. Your principals are going to be looking at you. I mean, you're not going to want to be in a faculty meeting and shopping when your principal's talking about what are the rules and expectations of our school, or what our disciplinary policies are. So I'm expecting you, I look at you as future teachers. I look at you as you could teach my child someday. So I want to be sure that you have the professional disposition, that you are where you need to be. All right. Here's another one. Okay, this is a big, if you do this, this is an automatic disposition infraction. I have attendance sheets. I have roll sheets. Okay, so you will be asked every class to be signing in. And if this happens, if you ask someone else to sign you in and you are not in class, what will happen is you will get a disposition infraction. Okay, the person that signed you in, which I call fraudulently signed you in, will also get a disposition infraction. All right, that is not acceptable. All right, so I just want to be sure that we're covering that on the first class. On the syllabus, you'll also see some of our descriptions of our assignments. There's court case research assignment. Okay, explains everything that I'm expecting you to do. Gives a description of the PowerPoint presentation, what I'm looking at. All right, maximum of, well, we say 10 slides. So all that information is on there, and it lays it out what's on slide 1, what's on slide 2, etc. All right, so that information is on there. And like I said, Savannah will be coming on the 5th to help you get some research. You will also want to sign up. I've created a wiki, and you go on Blackboard and you look under court cases, and then you're going to sign up for a court case. Now let's just say you sign up for a court case. Say you sign up for Forest Grove versus TA, and you really think, I haven't been able to find what I want. Can I choose something else? Yes, you can choose another court case on the wiki as long as it's not taken by someone else. Only one person per court case. All right, be sure when you're on the wiki that you are clicking submit once you've made a change. If you do not click the submit button, it will not save. So my advice is, when you sign up, go back in and check to make sure your name's on there, because you hate to think you signed up and then you didn't sign up and then someone else takes your case. So please be sure you're double checking your work on that. All right. There's rubrics on here for your presentation for the court case. There's also the rubrics on here for your oral presentation, for your field experience, your final for that. And then there's some information about the Dear Colleague letter, and you're going to be doing that later in the semester, and I'll go through this before we, it's not like this is the first time I'm talking about it and the only time. We'll go through it again later on in the semester. But you're going to read, there's a whole Dear Colleague section on Blackboard, and you're going to read that document, and then you're going to craft a response, and then we're going to have a discussion in class. So be sure you're kind of taking a look at these things, but that's pretty much the course in a gist. All right. I've also done an assignments at a glance. I kind of like to have like a one-page sheet to kind of keep me on target. I don't know if you guys are big on that, but I have my calendars and I live by my calendars. And so under the syllabus, there's assignments at a glance, and it basically gives you, I'm going to kind of hold this up here so you can kind of see. It gives you the dates and then also the tasks that you're going to be doing. So it kind of keeps you organized in terms of that. So my suggestion is you pull that out, get those dates in your calendar, and keep an eye on that. And that'll help you stay organized for the course. Feel free, like I said, email me. Like I said, I may be slow in responding. I might respond at weird hours just because that's kind of the way it goes right now. But I look forward to getting to know each and every one of you. I'm excited about getting to know each and every one of you. And I'm excited to teach you about the law and tell you some crazy stories. Because I have some good ones, and I have some colleagues that have had some very interesting things that have happened to them over the years. So my hope is to educate you so that you can be knowledgeable of the law, because one day you will be, if you are a special ed teacher, You may be that expert on sitting on that team that knows about, okay, what does the law say? What does the law not say? Can I do that? Can I do this? And that's kind of our discussion and where we're going for this semester. Well, I think I've talked a lot. I'm looking at the time on here and I'm like, wow, 30 minutes. Boy, I did talk a lot. But like I said, hopefully you'll have a great semester. I look forward to seeing and meeting you soon. All right, thank you so much. Bye.